Bounty Bob Strikes Back was a suggestion from Patreon Sal Gunders, and when I first took a look at screenshots of the game I thought, I must have played it because I kind of recognised it. I hadn't played it though. I hadn't played it at all. Bounty Bob Strikes Back is the sequel to Miner 2049er, another game which I've never played, so my history with this series pretty much starts about 3 days ago. Released in 1985, this sequel follows the misadventures of our titular hero, and to be honest, reading the story on either of these games gives you no real hope of understanding what the hell is going on. In Miner 2049er, Bounty Bob is a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and he's exploring his way through uranium mines. They'd apparently struck narrative gold with the first game because the second story is exactly the same. What does this mean in terms of gameplay though? Well, you've effectively got to walk on everything and avoid these weird deformed mushrooms. When the story states that Bounty Bob is exploring the uranium mines, it means he's really exploring them. To complete a level you have to touch every inch of floor available. Only then can his curiosity be sated. Along the way you'll find various items, and these are all effectively Pac-Man power pills, and they'll let you kill enemies, which is excellent because, to be honest, jumping over enemies is either really difficult or impossible due to the platform layouts. This gives Bounty Bob a strange mix of gameplay. Power pills don't last a great deal of time, and you'll typically need to take advantage of them if you want to make it through a level intact. This leads to you rushing, but rushing also leaves you dead because, well, you're rushing. It actually plays quite nicely in this regard though. Once you've got the level layout scratched onto your grey matter, you can rush around the level mopping up enemies like an expert speedrunner. It takes practice, but doing things this way means you can effectively remove the most dangerous elements of the level before rinsing off the last of the floor exploration. There is a time limit to deal with, but it becomes an easy groove to slip into, especially as on the easiest difficulty, it's fairly reasonable with its respawn conditions. All of the floor that you've explored and all of the enemies you've murdered will remain done and dusted until the level is finished. That's nice, is that? Enemies aren't usually the biggest death knell, however. I found that as with most platform games of this era, jumping is the main thing that's going to be written on your gravestone. Here lies Bounty Bob. He tried to jump up there, but he missed and now he's dead. R.I.P. The funny thing about jumping in Bounty Bob is that I took a lot of its mechanics for granted at first. I can't think of many games in this period that allow you to change direction in midair, but Bounty Bob lets you do that. It's necessary, in fact, to understand just what level of forward and backward motion are required in order to land on a platform you're trying to reach. It's very easy, for instance, to constantly forget that you can change direction in midair and fall to your death. A lot. I did this a lot. In a way, as primitive as it sounds now, Bounty Bob feels sort of advanced in its control methods. You still need to be pixel perfect when jumping over enemies, but this isn't often something you need to do. It's the platform leaping that will really be putting your fingers to the test. And having played through the first level and roughly getting to grip with things, I honestly thought that's all Bounty Bob would have to offer. Games back then often shot their load in the first level, and it'd be reasonable to expect the rest of the levels to follow suit. So I was surprised when the game continued to add more and more mechanics to all the standard platforming fare. First off, it introduces you to this lift, which can be used to move in 4 cardinal directions. Making sure you don't bugger yourself sideways by leaving the lift too high to reach is something that you will definitely learn over time. The following level introduces pipes, which fast travel you to different places in the level, and they can be switched directions or switched off completely using the control panel button. After that, the game just continues to add more and more elements that make each level fun and unique. It's a game that consistently surprises and constantly looks to keep the player thinking their way through each stage. I've got to give high praise to Bounty Bob Strikes Back. It might look like something your mother would spit on and has one of the greasiest looking protagonists I've seen in a game in a very long time, but its ability to consistently reinvent the mechanics for approaching its levels, each and every level, is something that's practically unheard of in 1985. It's incredibly inventive, and it feels like a game that just doesn't seem to get enough praise for what it achieves. I'm not even quite done on the praise yet. Passwords. It has a bloody password system. This, in my opinion, raises the non-existent score I would have set for the game tenfold. Every 3 levels or so, the game will give you a 3-letter code, which can be then entered into the options screen to start at that point later on. There are 25 levels in total, and, for once, there's a good chance you may actually get to see them all without cheating. There's no need for save states, there's no need for pokes, there's no need for infinite lives. The game is effectively challenging you to complete a stint of 3 levels, and then you get to rest. And that won't necessarily be easy. The levels are hard, but it gives you room to practice. What once felt unfair and impossible gradually becomes fine and doable. This, again, sounds like an insane thing to praise, but I can barely think of a handful of Spectrum games that would allow you to start from where you left off. Look, difficulty is fine. I love getting a virtual foot planted squarely up my arse sometimes, if I'm in the mood and it brought candles and played romantic music, but to start from square one over and over can drain the libido out of anyone. I may have got confused there. Here's the thing. Bounty Bob is brilliant. If you find the game too easy, it even has multiple difficulty levels for those who want to have fun but don't want to feel like they're having too much fun. It's a Spectrum platformer that's basically magenta with bits of white. It doesn't sound very good. It looks like a rabid mess. It can be mildly frustrating, but it feels incredibly original. It constantly changes its game. It wants you to progress through its levels. It wants you to have fun. And Bounty Bob Strikes Back is fun. That's as good for a box quote as anything else.